Welcome to another wonderful lesson in Python programming. This is lesson 18 on Pandas, and this is part 4 of our Pandas series. And in this series of learning, we are learning how to use Pandas and how to master Pandas. We've been introduced to Pandas, we've been introduced to series and data frames, and we've been able to perform some operations using Pandas. Today, we want to deepen our understanding. We will actually look at series in a different way and learn how to use series today. And so in this lesson, we are not really going to import a data set, but we'll think about using series to actually create a data set. After this, we will actually go to data frames and also create data frames from scratch. Apart from importing series and data frames, you can also create them. So this lesson, we want to actually look at how to handle this and how to perform some simple operations. So I welcome you once again. Python is so powerful. Python is so good. Anywhere in the tech industry, you keep hearing Python, Python. In any important job, you keep hearing Python, Python. And so it is very good that you learn it and learn it well and get used to it. Get used to it because it has a lot of benefits that will come to you tomorrow. The act of taking the first step is what separates winners from losers. So it is very, very good. And I'm super happy to see that you are taking the first step. What you are doing now is taking the step. Right now, others are wasting their time. Right now, others are messing up, but you are here in class making progress. This is really good, and I'm so proud of you. And this will make you a winner and separate you from losers. This is me. I've been in tech for 20 years, and I have been teaching for 10 good years. 2 days ago or yesterday, I showed a video of me teaching 10 years ago, and we have a lot of content from 10 years ago that at the right time, I can show you more. These 20 years I'm talking about is not my starting point in tech. It is my industry experience in tech. This means when I started learning, it's really more than that. And there's a lot of history before the beginning of these 20 years. And so it has been a wonderful journey, and I've encountered a lot. I've experienced a lot. I've stayed with tech throughout. I've not actually stopped. All right. It's been education, it's been industry, it's been the field, it's been learning, it's been together like that. And I have a passion to teach, and I want to teach. And for 10 years, we've been teaching, and Rita Africa branding is 1 year right now. Today, we are moving to Pandas, and we want to look at part 4 of our series of training in Pandas, data manipulation with Pandas, and working with data frames and series in Pandas. By the end of this lesson, you will be able to load data, filter, explore, clean, and analyze data sets using Pandas, gaining hands-on experience with data frames, and you enhance your skills in handling data. If you're a data analyst, great for you. If you're in cybersecurity, in cloud, software engineering, very, very great. You need to know about Pandas. Pandas is a library that we import into Python to extend the capabilities of Python. When you are learning Python, we have the fundamentals. And after the fundamentals, you really, really need to get into some important libraries. And this is one library that will never waste your time. You need to learn about Pandas. Pandas is primarily used for data manipulation, for data analysis, and data cleaning. Yesterday, in our machine learning class, we got to understand the importance of data cleaning. And after we cover the basic operations in Pandas, we will delve into data cleaning, and we will also get into data visualizations with Pandas, and it's going to be so wonderful. And this will help us expand our knowledge in Python. Pandas has built-in functions that allow you to clean, to filter, to transform, and to fill in missing values effortlessly. Pandas supports Excel, CSV, JSON, SQL, HTML, and so many formats of data. So if you have data from all these sources, you can import them into Pandas. I keep saying that Pandas is a magical word for data analysis. And so if you have data in any format, use Python and don't exploit it in that format. Give it over to Pandas. Once you hand your data over to Pandas, Pandas makes it very flexible and allows Python to operate on your data effectively. Pandas is also a body of multiple libraries in Python, and it works smoothly with NumPy, with Matplotlib, with Seaborn, scikit-learn, and very soon all these libraries will be at your fingertips. When we say NumPy, you will know it very well. When we say Pandas, you will know it very well. Matplotlib, Seaborn, scikit-learn, and all these tools will help you to really ground your foundation in Python, as well as Jupyter Notebooks, making it ideal for data science, data analytics, and all data handling in Python. Pandas organizes data in series and data frames. When we say series, we are referring to one-dimensional labeled array. One-dimensional labeled array. We'll spend some time looking at why we call this one-dimensional and why we call it labeled array. When it comes to data frames refers to two-dimensional labeled array. The picture you see here has only two columns. And so when we say two-dimensional, don't think of two columns. Two-dimensional refers to having rows and columns. So that's what we call 2D. If you know the word of 3D, you'll know that a 3D will form a body, and a 3D will create a different dimension altogether. So that's not what we are talking about here. So when we say two-dimensional, we are talking about rows and columns. So we have basic Pandas data handling and manipulation tasks that we have gone through most of them. And we've been able to learn how to read data from all these data sources, to read data from CSV. If you know how to use Pandas to read data from CSV, please type it in the chat if you remember how to do that. Read from CSV. Let me see how you write your code. Let's assume you've imported Pandas already. Let's see how you read from CSV. So let me see who can do that for me in the chat right now. So pd.readcsv. Marasi, you are always first. Marasi is behaving like a senior already. Thank you so much. Yes, Isimami got it right. pd.readcsv. Francis says pd.readcsv. And Robly added more details. Thank you, Robly. Thank you so much. You always make the Python class so lively. Thank you so much. So read CSV. We also learned last week how to write to these data sources or data formats. So instead of reading your data from these formats into Python, you can also, into Pandas, you can also read a Pandas data back into Excel, to CSV, to JSON, to SQL. Who remembers the method we use to write to CSV? To write to CSV. So we did that last week, how to write data to CSV. Who can tell us how to do it in the chat? And the first person says that it is, okay, to CSV. Thank you, Zeb. Thank you, Lami. Thank you. That is very good. So please remember this, okay? Not only can you import or read the data into Pandas, you can also take a Pandas magical data and send it back into Excel, send it back into CSV or JSON or SQL, And the method is just to CSV or to HTML if you want it in HTML. And it is very, very easy. So each one has their own method to read and to write. We also learned how to explore data. We looked at the shape, and you can find the shape of the data. And once you find the shape of the data, you get to see the rows and the columns. You can also find the columns for it to show you the columns, the info, and then the head. With the head, if you type the head, you get the first 5 rows of your data, and that gives you a lot of insight into the data. If you want to change, let's say you want to see the first 10 rows of the data, what do we do for us to see the first 10 rows? So let me see who can help us. If you want to see the first 10 rows of the data, what do we do if you want to see the first 10 row of the data? So thank you, Robly. It says dot head, and then you put 10 in the parentheses. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Now, when you learn about pandas, what you are supposed to master is how to select columns by series and how to select by data frame, how to filter by columns, by rows, or by conditions. So these are the main manipulations that you are going to see when it comes to serious projects. How to filter columns, how to select columns, very, very important. So you have a data set, you should be able to select one column out of it, or 2 or 3. You should be able to filter. These are the main things. And so you need to watch all these things over and over again so that you really understand them. Later, when you are taking advanced courses, you are going to see that these things, they don't explain them in those tutorials. They just go ahead and they do them. And so if you are not familiar with them, you start getting lost. They are teaching what you love, they are teaching important things, and you can't follow because you are just lost. Okay, so now that we have broken them down here, you can take your time and go over them. Make sure you master them because these are the important things. Last week, we saw how to add new columns, and it was so simple. You can just add new columns, and we did that last week. Next time, I wanted to do that today, but today I decided to take us into series. I wanted to give a simple exercise for you to revise on adding a new column, because this is very important, how to add a new column. Also, we introduce a method to allow us to rename. As for the arguments or the parameters, I'm not going to ask you too much right now, but what is the method to rename in Pandas? If you have a data frame and you want to rename a column, what method do we use to rename a column? So let me see if someone remembers from last week, the method we used to rename. All right, so thank you, Esimame. Thank you, Marasi, is .rename. Thank you so much. All right, so these things are very, very important. These are very, very important. If you don't have this prerequisite and you are taking advanced courses, you are going to be lost. So you have to understand these things. You have to remember them. You have to go over them. You need to make sure you get them. And one more, we learned how to delete columns. We also introduced a method to delete columns. I want to see who can remember the method to delete a column. And the method to delete a column is dot. Let me see who can remember. Don't worry about the parameters. Dot drop. Thank you, Francis. It's dot drop. Dot drop. Thank you. Thank you. This is very important information. This will really, really help you. So these are 4 remaining tags or 5 remaining tags that I want us to look at how to select data by rows using index-based or label-based selections. So we'll look at that. We also learn very, very importantly how to do merging, joining, or concatenation of data, or combining multiple data frames. These are very, very practical, very, very important, and super, super important skills you'll be needing in real world projects. So when it comes to Pandas, we can't escape these operations. We also need to know how to sort data by values and by index, and also how to handle missing data using some functions in Pandas. Today, I want us to move into the last task over here, which is creating a series and data frame from scratch. In all the lessons, we've been importing data sets. The time has come for us to learn not just how to import the data, but how to create the data using series and data frames. So we want to take care of that. And after that is done, then we complete these other tasks and move on to advanced data cleaning and data visualization. And we will conclude our training on Pandas. So we are going to learn how to create series from scratch. Creating a series from scratch. So this is what we are going to do right now. And we want to take a little recap on what series really are, because we learned in our very first Pandas lesson that Pandas has two major data structures, and they are series and data frames. And Pandas organizes data into series or data frames. Now, when we say a series is referred to as a one-dimensional labeled array that can hold data of any type. A one-dimensional labeled array. Now, when we say one-dimensional labeled array, we are talking about data that has only one column. This is not like a table that has multiple columns. I'll spend some time to get into why we call it one-dimensional and why we call it labeled array. But in today's lesson, we are going to see how series are created and how series look like. So this example here is showing you what is called a series of numbers. So after importing Pandas as PD, you can actually create what is called Pandas series this way. pd.series, and you provide a list, and then this particular list will be converted into series and stored in numbers. This is why we said a series can hold data of any type: integers, floats, strings. And so for integers, you can store the integers this way. Why would you want to create a series in Pandas? Because in Python, we work with one-dimensional data. Remember lists, data structures. Lists are very, very important in Python. In the world of data analysis, Pandas is senior to lists. So the list data structures we studied previously is junior when it comes to data analysis. And so the same data we were dealing with lists, and we saw how important lists are. If we need a list in Pandas, we have to create a series instead of a list. So even if you have a list, you can convert it into series and hand it over to Pandas. We can also see that in Pandas, we can have a series made of strings. So you can see that this series here is made of strings. And so this is also possible. This is why we say you can store data of any type in series. You can store data of any type in series. Now, most of the time when you see series in Python or Pandas, you are going to see them in one type. Although you can store data of any type, usually you will see integers together, you will see strings together, you will see floats together, because we look at series like a single column in a table. We look at series that way. And most of the time, when it comes to tabular data, a single column is usually with strict or designed for a particular data type. So although any data type can work in a series, usually it operates as a single data type. This does not mean at all that if you have multiple data types, it will not be accepted. After creating the series, Python will tell you that this is a series of integer or string. But if the data types are mixed, it will be created as an object. And so if you check the data type, Python will tell you that this is an object. So what I'm saying is that most of the time, your series will be made of a single data type, although a series can hold multiple data types, and you can create your series in any data types, like we've seen. All right. So let's think of Pandas series as a single column of data, similar to a column in a spreadsheet or a column in a data frame. So when you look at a data frame, one column in the data frame can be considered as a series. But if the data has multiple columns, it is not a series. Series is actually data that is one-dimensional or has only one column. If you look at the other attributes of a series, you can see that it has the index. Let me share my screen well so that we can highlight properly. All right. So if you look at the series well, you can see that the series has a name and it has these index numbers here. All right. Good evening, Lucretia. Thank you for joining. All right. Now, series is one of the core building blocks of Pandas in Python. You can also think of a series as a special version of a list, but it is more powerful and easier to use for data analysis. So I've already mentioned this. And if you want to work with lists in terms of data analysis, you should convert it into a Pandas series. A series is referred to as a labeled array because each item in a series has a row label, which is called an index. That helps you identify or access the data, and also a cell value, which is the actual data. All right. So the point here, we are actually picking what is called labeled array. And we technically refer to a series as a labeled array because each item has a label or a row label. So this particular item, this item has a row label. This is the label. This is the label. This item also has a row label, which is this. And so when you say a series is a labeled array, it means that each item has a label, and that label is referred to as an index. The purpose of the index is to help you identify or access the data. And so we are going to see that apart from the label, which is called an index, we also have what is called a cell value, which is the data. So the cell value is the actual data within the series. All right. A series is built on top of NumPy arrays. And so when we get into NumPy, we will see and we will learn that NumPy, please type NumPy in the chat for me. And I'll be happy if you can type it the same way as you see it on my screen. NumPy is a mother of pandas and is a mother of series. All right. So later on, we get into NumPy. Thank you very much. And it says that Python series is built on top of NumPy arrays. And in NumPy, we also have arrays that we will look at. But in Pandas, they have labels, which are the indexes attached to each value. This is why it is often described as a one-dimensional labeled array. So the reason why we call it a labeled array is because of the indexes or because of the labels attached to each data item or each value. Each value has an attachment or an index, and the index can be used to identify or to access. So after we create our series today, we will learn how to access the data using the index. So the index makes it labeled, and that is why it is called labeled. And it is an array because it is a list. That's why we call it labeled array. And it is one-dimensional because the data itself is in one column. All right. So again, it is called labeled array because each data point is identified by a label called an index, and it is paired with a value, the actual data. So this is very, very clear right now. Over here, a series can also contain custom labels. So this is also important to be aware of because instead of the index being numbers, it is also possible that the index or the indexes can be made of strings. So over here, you can see a Pandas series of numbers. These numbers have been created and stored in a variable called grades. But instead of allowing the normal indexing of 0, 1, and 2, you can also control the index values. So you can also input that the index labels should be strings. So here we call it math, English, and science. So this is important to take note because this is also possible when it comes to series. And later on, you may encounter a situation like this. All right. Now, let's get to creating a series. And this is where we start our Jupyter notebooks, and we will get into creating our first series. So the first thing we will do is to create a series from a list. So let's open to our Jupyter environment and then import pandas, and then let's create our first series from list. This is important, and this helps you to input data directly into a series. And when we are done with this, we are also going to input data directly into a data frame. And so we are going to have our own DF data frame that has data that we inputted ourselves. Sometimes you'll be required to input the data or create the data yourself instead of reading it. This is very, very important, and we need to understand it. So let me turn on my Jupyter environment and let's see how we can handle this. So I'm going to open to my terminal and I'm going to start my Jupyter environment. So I'll say Jupyter Space Lab. So once I do this, it is going to start the server and launch my Jupyter environment. So let's do that. And I want you to create this particular series and output the series for us to see. I want you to output the series. I want you to output the series for us to see. All right. So let's start a new notebook. And this, I'm just going to name it creating a series, creating a Pandas series. So let me create a markdown here and say creating a Pandas series. So thank you, Ibrahim. That was really fast. All right, so creating a Pandas series. And the first thing I'm going to do is to obviously import Pandas. And to import Pandas, let me see if Ibrahim did it right. So to import Pandas, you just go ahead and import it. So you got it right. Thank you very much. So import Pandas as PD. Let's run it. If you run and there's no error, if you see a number here, then it worked. All right, so we've been able to import Pandas. You cannot perform any operations on Pandas if you don't import it. And if you don't have Pandas installed on your system, you cannot also import it. To import Pandas, have Python on your computer. If you have Python, then you can import Pandas. If you can import Pandas, then Pandas will work in your environment. All right. So now that we have this done, we are going to create a series from a list. So I'm going to write a comment here, creating a series, creating a Pandas series from a list. All right. So to do this, what we are going to do is to simply call our PD and say dot series. So over here, you can see that there are a number of methods here. So to create this particular series, it is PD dot series. When you type PD and dot and you press tab, you can see all the functions here, and you can just type series, and this is actually a class. And so when you see it, you can hit enter. And with this, you can create a series. And this particular series, I need to open parentheses, and then I can input my list. So I have a list of 4 numbers. I can just go ahead and create a list. In Python, a list is made up of square brackets. So I type that, and then I input my numbers. So 10, 20, 30, 40. This is important to take note of. By doing this, you have created a series, and you now have data within Pandas. So instead of importing a data set, you can also create the data. And this is exactly how to do it. I would like to store the series I'm creating in a variable. I'm going to call the variable numbers. And so after assigning it to this, what this simply means is that the data I've created is now going to be stored here in numbers. Let's run this, and if we don't get an error, then it worked. So this worked. Now, let's go ahead and access it by typing numbers, and let's run this and see if it will work. Let's go ahead and run this, and you can see that it worked. What is the data type you see here? What data type do you see here? This simply means that the data type is an integer. So most of you have done it, and this is beautiful. Thank you very much. Now, this is important, this is interesting, and this is something you ought to know. So right now, we have the data within this variable, and we can go ahead and work with it. Next, let's create another series. And this time, we are going to create it from a list again. But you can see that the list is stored in a variable. And then once you say dot series, you can call the variable and it works. So let's do this next. So next here, we are going to create a Pandas series from a list variable. So let's call this data. And we create our list here, 10, 20, 30, 40. We have it here. What I'm going to do is to add a string to it and say 50. All right, is this still a list? Is this still a valid list? Is this still a valid list? Okay, so I'm asking a question and Roughly says yes, it's still a valid list. All right, so let's see if this is going to work. So let's come here and say pd.series again. pd.series again. Let's call pd.series, open our parentheses and assign our list to it like this. Let's store it to the variable called series. And so we've assigned the data to this variable. Let's go ahead and run it. If we run it and we don't get an error, then it worked. So let me run series, run it with Shift Enter, and it worked. Now, what is the data type you see here? Who can tell me the data type you see here now? So this is of a data type of an object. All right, so this is an object because of the mixed values you used in your series. Now, most of the time, your series is going to be made up of a uniform data type in the specific series. So you can have a series of strings, series of integers, series of booleans, series of multiple data types. But if the data types are mixed, then it is going to become object. You can see that because we had integers, we saw int. And now that we have mixed, we can see object. Let's see the next task here. And now we are going to create a series from a dictionary. Wow, this is going to be interesting. So this particular series, let's store it in a variable called fruits, and let's run it and see. So please do this and please post it in the chat. Let me see what kind of series you are going to create. Now, someone is going to say, how are you going to create series from a dictionary? Because a dictionary has key value pairs. What is really going to happen when we do this? What is really going to happen when we create a series this way? So let's try it and print it and let's see what just happens. So we are going to create our dictionary here. So I'm going to create my dictionary here and I'll just call it my date instead of just dictionary. I'll just call it my date. Let me add a comment here and say that creating a Pandas series from a dictionary. All right. So my date here, and we know that dictionaries are denoted by this, and dictionary has data in key value pairs. So this dictionary, we use some fruits. Let's check the actual fruits we used. We have apples, oranges, and bananas. All right. So since apples is made up of string, we'll just say apples, then colon, then the number. Let's say we have 10 here, then comma, then oranges, colon, 20, comma, and bananas, colon 30. All right. So we have the data in my date. Thank you. I like that. We have the data in my date. Now that we have the data in my date, I want someone to pause and tell me how to create this particular series. Just type in the chat, how do I create this series? Don't assign it to the variable yet. Tell me how I can just create this particular series with my PD. How do I create this series? Someone should tell me in the chat right now. How do I create this? All right. Thank you so much. Thank you, Lami. Thank you, Isimami. So you are following. This is very, very powerful. So it is not every day that you import or read from a data source. You can also create your own data series or data frame. After this, we will delve into data frames and you see how amazing it is. So we just go to PD dot and we go to series and then open parenthesis and put my date in it. Now I'm going to assign it to a variable because if I don't, this series is just going to stay in memory without any pointer. So I'm going to create a reference variable for it and call it, let's call it fruits. All right. So let's run this. And if this is right, it will work. So once we see the number here, it worked. Now let's call fruits and let's run it. And you can see that it worked. All right. So what happened here? This is important here because if you are not introduced to this, this can be tricky because the labels, instead of being index numbers from 0 to 2, they are now strings. So this happens when you use a dictionary for your series. But you can see that the actual data values are still integers. So nothing happened to the data values. So you can see that we have integers still here. This is really, really interesting. This is really, really interesting. All right. Before we continue, I want someone to create a series made of only strings. All right. So create another series, maybe with fruits. Let it be only strings. And let me see what you get. You post it in the chat, and then I'll check what output we will be given. So someone should do this. All of you should do it and share it and let me see. Thank you, Ibrahim. You've done so well. Your work is so clean. All right. So now, instead of creating from a list like we did here, create from a string. Create a series from a string. And let's see how it will be. Let's create a series from a string. All right. You can use any strings. I said fruits, but feel free to use any. Feel free to use any. So let me create mine as I wait on yours. And I think I want to see the first person create this for me to see. And I'm so happy that today we are creating our own data. We are not reading from GitHub. We are not reading from CSV. We are not reading from Excel. We are not reading from JSON. We are actually creating it ourselves. Next time, we'll be reading data from Excel and SQL. These are areas that we are yet to delve into and are super powerful and super important. It's not every day that you'll be reading from CSV. Sometimes you read from SQL. SQL is a whole new world that we will get into very, very soon. All right. So I'm going to see the first person who created a series out of a string. And I want to see how you did it and what you got and what the D type is. All right. So the first person to accomplish this okay. the first person to accomplish this, of course, who else than Esimami? All right. All right. So, oh, sorry, Timothy. All right. So with this, we can see that it is giving us the D type as object. Wow. SC is always the best. Thank you. SC is always the best. Hilary says, happy birthday, sir. That's so creative. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Oh my God. I love that. I love that. Let me create it. So Hilary created his string. Let's call it my string. And then he actually created a list with a string. Let me give this a comment and says creating a pandas series from a string. All right. So this lists, we can have happy birthday, sir. Okay. Happy birthday, sir. And he went ahead and said pd.series, open parenthesis, my string. And then he stored it as, let's call it new series. New series. All right, so he called it new series. Thank you, Hilary. And let me run it. Let me run it. It worked. And let's print new series. And wow. So you can see your series here. Now you can see that this series has a name variable, has labels, and also has data. So these three attributes here, the variable that holds it, the index numbers, and then the data values themselves. And the D type is an object because we all know that strings are objects. Remember from Python, strings are objects, and they are objects that are immutable, that are immutable, that are immutable. All right. I'm going to ask you to create another Panda series. Let's say this time from another data type. Let's choose Boolean. Let's choose Boolean. Sorry, Lucretia. You are always following, and I know you would have done this. Once you get it back, please fix it. Wow. Wow. Thank you, Lami. I like your work. All right. So next, I want you to create something from a Boolean. Now look at the Boolean series we saw in this lesson. Look at how it was created. They named it past. Past. So this looks like an examination, and you can see true, false, true, false. Let's create this and see what D type we are going to get. So I want to see the first person who can create this, and we'll see the D type we will get from this. All right. You guys are so creative. Oh, Lucretia, thank you. Thank you. I know you are hardworking. Sorry, Ibrahim. I trust you. Wow, Bernardine. Okay. So Bernardine has given us a D type already. That's beautiful. So let's create what Bernardine created. So creating a Pandas series from from a Boolean or Boolean. Let's see how it was written here. Series of Boolean. So, or Boolean. So from a Boolean variable. All right. So what I'm going to do now is to create my bool. Let's call this my bool list, my bool. And here we have true, we have false, we have true, we have false, we have true. All right, so this is my bool list. And I'll just say pd.series, my bool. Let's store this in a variable called past. Let's run it, and it worked. See how easy it is. See how easy it is. I tell you, if you were taking an advanced course and you were not introduced to this, and you see them creating the series, they're going to be confused. But this has set the foundation and give you the prerequisites to be able to advance in this. All right, so let me call past. And when we run past, we can see that true, false, true, false, true, and the D type is bool. Thank you, Bernadine. Thank you so much. I love this. I love this. This is very practical, and this is so interesting. All right. So next, we are going to create a series with custom labels. So instead of creating it from a list, you can actually provide your list, and then you can control the index values directly or manually. Thank you, Francis. So let's create this, and this is called custom labels. So the labels, you are changing the labels. You are actually manipulating the labels, creating a series and manipulating the labels. Someone should create this, and let me see what you will get. The Crescia is on point, is working. The D type is bool. Thank you for following Python. And then we have Francis. Francis got it. Oh, Francis has done this already. Wow. How do you do this so fast? Wow. With a custom label, Francis has done it. How did you do this so fast? Okay. All right. So let me see the next person. Let me see the next person. Creating a series with custom labels or the indexes. Let me see the next person, and then we will create it together. All right. Okay. All right. So we have our list. Thank you, Luis. Thank you, Luis. Luis got it. Wow. Luis got it. And then Norbert and Lamy and Isimami, you've all done it. Okay. So over here, you can see that this parenthesis is actually taking two parameters. The first is the list or the data, and the next, you can also control the index. Last week, we did some things and we control the index. We set index to false because we didn't want to write with the index numbers. All right, so let's come here and say that creating a series from custom labels, and let's call this indexes. So we can just go ahead and say pd.series. Today is about series. So I'm happy we are seeing series. When we switch to data frames in our next lesson, you see how we'll create data frames from scratch as well. All right. So over here, we can just go ahead and input the data, and then we can also control the index. So if you look at how we inputted the data, you can see that we just enter the data values and then we set the index to another list. So the index was also set to a list, and here the numbers we had 85, 90, 78. So over here we can put 85, 90, 78. And over here we can create a string of English, maths, and French. I don't know what they were. English, math, French. All right. So with this, we've been able to input the data. So English, math, and science. All right, or math, English, and science. It all works. So math, English, and science. All right. So let's store this in a variable called grades. So we can come here and say that grades equals to this, and we are done. Let's run it. It worked, and we can print grades, and you can see that it is here. So the data is made up of integers, but the labels have been customized. So we have math, English, and science instead of 0, 1, and 2. So this is extremely important, and this is something that you should know. And this particular lesson is very important. It is among the fundamentals of Pandas that you are supposed to be aware of. And I'm so happy that we are taking it at this time when we have some foundation already laid up in Pandas. And so it is very easy to understand. Right now, we want to see what we can do with our series after they are created. So far, we've only created series. Let's see what we can do with them. So we have some basic operations on series. And the first operation is accessing the elements by label or position. And so the series we have created, we can use the labels, which is the index numbers, to access them, or by the positional index numbers to access them. So let me see from Luis. Luis has something shared, and wow. Wow. Oh, wow. That's amazing. So you created a max separately, the data separately, then the indexes separately, and you were able to create a series. Wow. This is amazing. Thank you, Louisa. Luis Adera, thank you. Thank you. Yes, thank you. I love it. I love it. All right. So let's get back to our work and see how we can access. So think about lists in Python. After having a list, how do you access your list? Now, over here, we have grades. How do we assess the grade of math? So this particular operation is going to be accessing elements by the labels. So we are going to access by the label or by the index. All right. So let's come here and we will say accessing series elements by indexes. So to do this, we can call our grades and just use, we can just access by the index, okay? So we can just access by, let's say the index, if it is a number, you just put it there. If it is the string, you just put it there as well. So let's access this by math. And when we run this, okay, so this is created. We can go ahead and print it. We can go ahead and print it, and let's see what we will get. All right, so let me see what you will get, and you can see that we're able to access this, and we got an 85 from grades. So this is great. And if the index is a number, you can also go ahead and access it by that index. All right, so let me go back to any of our series that has index of numbers, and then we will access it by the index. So let's come back here. We have numbers, which has index of numbers, and let's create a cell down here. And over here, let's print numbers index 1. All right, so when we run this, who can tell me what we are going to get? What will be the value? What are we going to get index 1? All right, so let's run this and see if Bernardine is right. And of course, Bernardine doesn't make mistakes. So we got 20. So in this particular operation, you have seen that if you create a series, you can use the labels, these labels that we've been talking about as one-dimensional labeled array. A list is an array, or series is an array, and it's labeled array. You can use the labels to access them. This is why the labels are important, to identify and to access. If I change the label to 3, what am I going to get now? Who can tell me? One more time, I change the label to 3, and in Kuleko, this is the first time I'm mentioning in Kuleko, from Swaziland, we got 40. All right, so this is really nice, and this is straightforward. You have to understand that if you have the labels as numbers, you can access it just like you access a Python list. You put it there. Thank you, Robly. And if your labels are custom labels like strings, you can also access it. So let's come to these fruits and let's see how we can access the number of oranges. So please write the code for me over here that I'll put here, how to access the number of oranges we have in this particular series. Notice this is not a data frame, this is just a series. So how do I access the number of oranges in this particular series called fruits? So let's see who can do this for me. Just write the code in the chat. Don't put it in your Jupyter. You can do yours as well, but I want to see the code in the chat. So we'll definitely print it. And let me see the code. Apart from printing it, you can also store it in a variable if you want to do that. So we'll say fruits. And because it is a string, we can put it in the quotes and say oranges. And thank you all, you got it right. When we run this, we are going to see 20, and you guys are on point. All right, so this teaches us how to access the objects and the data that we have in our series. All right, that's beautiful. The next task is how to do slicing. How to do slicing. So in Python, we're able to slice lists. And so we are going to create a slice from one index to another index. And over here, we did slicing from 1 to 3, but it gave us the result of 1 to 2. Who can tell us why? And I want to see those who can go back to Python list and go back to slicing, the concept of slicing in strings, in lists, in Python, and tell us why we requested for 1 to 3, but we got only 1 to 2. Who can tell us in the chat? So just put it in the chat and let's see what happened, because the last index is excluded. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you, Lois Omende of Python. Thank you. The last index is exclusive or excluded. All right. Thank you. Thank you so much. That is it. So let's see how this works, how indexing will work here. How indexing will work here. Let's try indexing on grades right now. So, sorry, slicing. So slicing a series. And so we are going to have the slice of grades. And these grades, we are going to, okay, so with this one, because of the strings, let me leave this for now. And let me pick a different one for this example. Let me leave a different one for this example. And let's move to one with integers. So this one here, let me choose a different one, like numbers. Let's try this. So let me create a cell here. Later, we will check the strings as well. So let's call this slicing a series. And then we call numbers. And then we say index 1, column 3. Let's go ahead and print it. And let's see what we get. So 1 column 3, you can see that give us 1 and 2, just because the last value is exclusive. So that is it. So if you are indexing from 1 to 3, the third index will not be included. You'll get 1 to 2. That is it. So this is basic Python, and I'm sure we got it. Next, we want to perform an arithmetic, and we have one last operation, and we'll wrap up. All right. So over here, we have a series called grades, and we added the value 5. You will notice that a 5 was added to all the grades. So let's go and check if we have anything called grades that we created. And if we don't have grades created here, we will just go ahead. Okay, we have grades created here. All right, let's use the grades. And the grades we have here, we will perform an arithmetic. So adding to grades. Adding to grades. So performing an addition operation on a series. So here we can say grades plus 5, and we can store it in new grades equal to this. Let's run it and see. It worked. So new grades, we can see that the grades, let's see what happened. We added 5. So you can see that this teacher went ahead and dashed everyone 5 points. So the grades that we had here for math 85, English 90, and science 78, after the teacher gave 5 points to everyone, you can see that math is 90, English is 95, and science is 83. Wow. Let me see who has done it. And I can see that Ibrahim has done a marvelous job. That's beautiful. Thank you, Ibrahim. You are on point. Beautiful. Thank you all. Ismamin, Louise, Francis. That's beautiful. So you can perform an additional operation. You can perform multiple arithmetic operations on your series, and it works. And if you want to perform this operation on a particular item in the series, you can go ahead and index that item and perform the operation on that item. All right. So if you want to add to only math, you can do that. So someone should try that and let me see. Instead of adding the grades to every element, select math and add 5 to math. Let's see who can do it. Let's see if someone can do it, and then we will see how you went about it. So this will be the last two operations that we will look at quickly, and then we will end today's lesson. Okay. All right. So I'm waiting for the first person who can add to only math. And let's see how you go about it. Add to only math and print it, and let's see what you got. Okay. So we got our winner, and our winner is, wow, you got it. You got it. Okay, so what we had to do was to call math. All right, so that's it. That's it. So this operation, and then here, this math here, we are adding 5 to math. So now when we print grades, let's just call it grades, we are going to see that it has printed grades and increase only math. So this is what I was trying to say. So I wanted us to add to only math. So after adding to only math, we have to store it back into math. And then the grades series was still restored. And after printing it, only math has changed. You can see that English is still 90 and science is still 78. So that's it. All right. So next operation is called descriptive statistics. And we want to find out the mean, the max, and then the mean. So we just go ahead and print grades of mean, or grades.mean. Let me delete the new grades. And so we have grades. So we have grades.mean. And we can just go ahead and print it. It's a float. And you can see that the mean is 86. So when you add all and divide by 3, you get 86. All right, let's print the same thing again and do grades.max. Who can tell us what we will get if we do grades.math? Yes, Robley, thank you. So grade.max, let's go ahead and print this and say grade.max is 90. So the highest score was 90. And of course, grades.mean. What is grade.mean? Grades.mean, looking at my grades here, dot mean will give us 78. So you can see that statistics also works on series. You can find the max, the mean, and the mean, just like lists in Python, you can do that. The last thing we are going to do is to filter the grades where grade is greater than 80. So let's go ahead and find grades. Where grades is greater than 80. All right. So let's run this operation and let's see what will happen. Let's go ahead and print it. And who can tell me what we will see if this runs well? What are we going to see? Let's look at the grades we have again. We have math 90, English 90, science 78. And let's run this roughly. And I have an error because of a typo. Let's run it again. And we got math and English. Wow, this is wonderful. This is interesting. This is really enlightening. And I am super happy that we've been able to cover this. This means that a lot of operations are possible on series. If you have your series, you can do slicing, you can do indexing, you can do filtering, you can do arithmetic operations on your series. And this is vital information that we've acquired tonight. I want to find out if you've learned anything this evening. If you learned anything at all this evening, has the class been valuable to you? Thank you, Robley. And I'm happy that you got value for your time. Let's be consistent. By doing this each and every week, we will upgrade ourselves. We will be good. We will be professionals. And very soon, we are going to earn a lot of dollars from this knowledge. Thank you all for following. Thank you, Lucretia. Thank you, Ibrahim. Thank you, Francis. Thank you, Hilary. Thank you, Paul, Inkluleko. Esimami, thank you so much. Norbert, Valencia, Robley, Lamy, thank you all. Thank you so much. And I'll definitely see you tomorrow on my birthday. See you. Have a wonderful evening, and we'll meet tomorrow. Bye bye.